I was listening to James O'Brien, and a particular conversation about the current political, economic, and social realities struck me. The caller had lived in Denmark for 12 years and described how after net migration and irregular migration had reduced drastically, sexual and violent crimes had actually increased rather than the purported decreases that are promised and prematurely celebrated by neo-fascists and the far right. This highlights how far removed public discourse is from reality. Simultaneously, economic growth had decreased significantly, whilst harsher measures damaged integration and social cohesion, again outcomes which undermine and disprove the justifications of the far right. Throughout history, we have seen how aspiring and established authoritarians have used abhorrent and unspeakable tragedy to justify draconian and dystopian actions. You see how Farage today still conflates migrant crime cases with community culture and generalizes and perpetuates stereotypes, and consequently outlines how he will strip legal migrants, innocent people, without justification of their rights to live in the country they've contributed so much to. Not just that, but their children, British citizens, British born, he wants to hound them out of the country and derides them as criminals based on the vile actions of a minority. I support a lot of the reforms announced by the Home Secretary, and most are sensible changes. However, returning established refugees once their home country is safe is unjustifiable. If someone has lived here for 5, 10, 20 years, you can't uproot their entire life. They've claimed their legal right to refuge and have been rightly protected, so removing them cannot be justified. I would urge the Home Secretary to amend that measure to ensure that refugees who have lived here for more than 5 years do not get removed and do not have their lives destroyed by the state. She has also failed to dispel myths about migration. Vitriolic commentators like Professor Matthew Goodwin and presenter Alex Armstrong regularly claim that immigration is the reason that wages have declined so vehemently. This has been comprehensively disproved. The Migration Advisory Committee reported in 2018 that migration had positively impacted wages overall in the UK. Oxford Economics also found in 2018 that the average adult migrant contributed more than the average UK-born adult. The net lifetime contributions of migrants were also found to be positive. We have to confront the scale of lies and obfuscation in the media. It is disingenuous to generalize based on a minority that have to claim welfare or a minority that abuse the system. There are also some fundamental reforms that are missing, gaping holes in the plans announced. Skilled workers currently only get 60 days to find a new job after losing their current job, after which their sponsorship risks being revoked. This causes people to be trapped in exploitative contracts that are in fact forms of modern slavery. It is a moral duty to give migrants greater security. Increasing the time period from 60 days to 6 months is an easy way to do so. We also need to urgently ramp up processing speed and capacity. Temporary processing centres and more caseworkers will definitely need to be part of the solution, and Labour is already making some good progress on that front. We need to reform immigration processes as well. The Life in the UK test is preposterous and archaic in its nature. It urgently needs to be overhauled. We need more safe and legal routes to fulfill our moral obligation towards refugees, so that less people are forced into paying dangerous smugglers and putting themselves at risk of abuse and assault. At the same time, bogus asylum claims from existing visa holders need to be stamped out. This is what undermines trust in the system. We must ban or severely restrict asylum claims from existing visa holders. The claims are largely, almost exclusively, unfounded. There needs to be an annual migration plan to coordinate these priorities and these objectives, as recommended by the Institute for Government, which determines how much net migration we should target based on our economic needs and capacity, alongside reforms to the points-based system to support our economy and the government's priorities. This means reviewing salary thresholds and allowing migrants to trade qualifications or experience for discounts on the salary threshold. This will ensure that we are attracting the best global talent to power the innovation of our future, to power the economic growth of our future. We also need to recognize economic realities. International students are net positive to our country and are temporary migrants mostly. They help keep our universities going. So why are they continually denigrated? And why are they continually declared by figures of the far right as being detrimental for our nation? This needs to change. They should be excluded from net migration figures to prevent policy distortions that attempt to reduce the amount of international students, which damages our universities, damages our innovation, and hurts our growth. Beyond our borders, we need to continue international cooperation, something which Labour has successfully re-established, especially with the EU. A tenet of the solution, which is not often proposed, is one that I can endorse. A column in the Times by Sir Trevor Phillips brought this to my attention. The Migration Policy Institute has also recommended this, the establishment of migrant hubs at coastal hotspots in France to manage migration demand. This would give people support to claim asylum through legal routes, whether that is to the UK or to elsewhere depending on their situation, and help people to escape the stranglehold of exploitative people smugglers. We need dedicated asylum visas and ways to claim asylum without having to first be on UK soil. This would help to achieve that. Rather than an amalgamation of different schemes, we also need a standardized route to asylum. This would be a far better way of doing things and improve efficiency and the processing capacity as well. In this, we must also embrace the role of technology. The combined powers of the new digital ID system, existing government services, and a brand new app to streamline and coordinate applications and immigration status, as well as access to services and support, would be crucial to dealing with the problems that we currently face when it comes to managing migration. On the ground, we need to support integration a lot more than we currently do. After someone has been granted refugee status, after someone has come into the country to work or for any other reason, there's not enough support to allow them to feel a part of their community, to give them a stake in their future. We could do this very, very easily. We could provide free English lessons to newly accepted refugees and migrants in local libraries and community centres. This is relatively cost-free as well. Expanding community sponsorship schemes will also support integration. Then, we can also invest in skills and job training to cement their stake in their communities. Finally, the most crucial ingredient of the reform that is needed is the Home Office itself. Almost everyone knows that it is not fit for purpose and is incapable of delivering reform. We need a dedicated government department for migration. The Home Office is far too expansive and unwieldy. It's time to rewire the state. I will discuss Whitehall reform in the future, but governments of all stripes have been too scared to uproot the established systems of the state apparatus for far too long. We need reform across the board to help better deliver on the priorities of government. There's a real path to a fairer and more humane migration system, a real path to a reformed state, a clear path to a more prosperous future. Yet our leaders have failed to step up and recognize the realities in front of us. Migration is still crucial today for our economy, labour market, and demographic challenges. We need to ensure that our approach secures the benefits and reduces the negative impacts. We need to ensure that we protect and cherish the tolerance, multiculturalism, and diversity of our nation. We need to stand firm against the racism and far-right bigotry that is once again rearing its head. If we fail, then we risk seeing social unrest on an unfathomable scale and the rekindling of the brutal and unjustified hostility that characterized the vile Farage riots. Action is a moral imperative, and inaction is complicity.